Okay, welcome back, Southside Fishing family. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about jigs and the three main types of jigs. Casting or flipping, football, ball head finesse. Okay? Now I'm going to go over each kind of jig and where you should be fishing it and where they excel and where they don't excel. So let's just dive right into it. First one that we are going to be talking about is the casting or flipping jig. Now, as you see, it's got a narrow head design. Now, that's because it's meant to be fished around grass and it's meant to be fished around laydowns where it needs to be narrow to kind of split the grass and not get hung up in branches or anything like that. This particular model is a Kitech, 3/8 of an ounce. It's very, very small. It's a tungsten jig, so it's gonna have a lot of noise in the water when it clacks off of whatever you're pitching in. That is where this jig here excels. You could even fish this through some grass, but I wouldn't necessarily fish it in heavy grass. That's just me. I'm not a whole heavy grass jig fisherman. I don't know how to do that too well, so fish it around grass and flip it into some laydowns. That's where that casting flipping jig excels. Talked about that guy. Next up is the football head jig. Got another Kitech here. I believe it's a 1/2 ounce football head jig. Once again, it's kind of a finesse football head jig because it's pretty small, as you see, and that hook is a little bit smaller than, it actually is a lot a bit smaller than normal football head jigs. Now, where the football head jig excels at is being fished around a rock. You really want to fish it, whether that be a mid-depth rock or even deep rock. This is where you want to fish it. Because of that narrow football head design, it deflects off of rocks and doesn't get jammed in the rocks as easy as something like a casting jig would, or even a ball head finesse jig would. You will, if you're dragging this jig on the bottom, you will hang up on a rock, and all you got to do is shake that rod tip a little bit and it comes right up and over that rock, which is kind of the beauty of the design of that head there. Now, this thing ain't gonna be fished too good in weeds because it is a wider design, so it's gonna catch more weeds. So this is why I don't fish it around grass. I know there's some people that do fish it around grass and have some success with it, but me, I cannot. I can't fish this thing around grass. So I'm fishing it pretty much strictly rock. The weed guard's a little bit thinner than that casting jig, and that's because you're not necessarily supposed to be casting this into a whole bunch of muck like grass or even flipping this into laydowns. That's what that casting jig's for. That's why it's got a beefier weed guard than this football head jig. All right. So next up, last but not least on the list, is just a ball head finesse. This one happens to be a tightrope jig. The ball head finesse jig, they're fantastic for catching bass. Now you can tell that this thing is a finesse jig because of the way that skirt's cut. It's trimmed up so that the skirt's pretty short and puffy like that. These are 1/4 ounces, but it's still a really compact package. What you want out of a finesse jig. Now where I'm fishing these is kind of similar to the football head jig. I'm fishing this around a lot of rock. I'm not necessarily flipping this in under docks or anything like that, although you could, but that weed guard right there is just thin enough, just strong enough to brush off a couple strands of grass here and there. It's not able to pick the jig up and over, say, like a branch or something underwater on a dock. Now you throw these when the bite's tough, when they don't want to chase anything, they don't want to eat a bigger jig like you've been throwing. This is where the finesse jig comes in handy. This is where you throw it out because this will catch them when nothing else will. And a lot of times it will catch you good ones. I don't know if you guys have ever thought about it, but the reason that I fish a lot of smaller jigs is because, especially up here, the bass aren't necessarily seeing giant crawfish all the time. The majority of what they see are smaller crawfish. They're eating smaller things, which is why the finesse jig gets bit. Versus, let's say, let me show you a real big football head jig I have. Now when I put it up to the finesse jig, you see the difference in size. Sometimes fish don't always want to bite something giant, especially when the water's colder and they're not willing to try to eat something that might put up a fight. The smaller it is, the easier it is for them to inhale it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this short video. This hopefully was an informational video and you guys learned something. If you did, go ahead and drop me a like and comment what you learned, what you thought of the video. If you're new here, please subscribe to join the Southside Fishing family. We are growing and doing great things on this channel, and I appreciate your guys' support, all that have been around since day one. Love you guys. So I'm gonna hop off here. I will catch you guys very, very soon. Next episode of Southside Fishing. Yeah. See you guys later.